Now, off to our next stop, which is the old City Hall. We currently have a new City Hall, which is a few blocks away. So cool Boston fact. I guess it's not as cool anymore though. But the current City Hall, in January, it was announced that they were going to have a big King Tut exhibit come to Boston. Now, I am a huge fan of ancient Egypt. I love ancient Egypt. I love King Tut. I love all the history. I was so excited for this exhibit to come to Boston, like so excited about it. It was probably going to be the highlight of my year. It was supposed to open in June. So, to celebrate that it was coming, they decided for whatever reason to build a massive scale replica of King Tut outside of our city hall. Like as big as the building. You can Google it. It was so strange. I don't know if it's still there because I don't really end up walking that way. But they built it to like celebrate this exhibit coming. And then COVID happened and it got canceled. I'm like really upset. If I think about it too much, I get really sad because I really, really, really wanted to go. But I think it'll come back in a few years. I hope. But yeah, the current city hall, for whatever reason, for a few months, just had like a massive pharaoh outside of it. It was so funny. When I saw the picture, I thought it was so silly. I was like, what is this? Whose idea was this? Like, what kind of marketing was this? But, you know, I respect it. Gotta respect the hustle. All right, so we're almost at our next stop. I'm just heading on in. Man, I got these weird lights behind me. I guess it makes it a little bit eerier. All right, so let me flip my camera. Here I go. All right, so this is the old City Hall. We currently have a new City Hall, as I talked about earlier. So the old City Hall was built on the site of the Boston Latin School, which is one of the first schools in the country. And from 1865 to 1969, it hosted 38 of Boston's mayors. So let me turn my camera and I'll keep talking about it. There it is right behind me. So again, 1865 to 1969 hosted 38 of Boston's mayors. Now, in the 19th century, in the 1970s, it was converted into an adaptive reuse project. Now, adaptive reuse is when you take a building and turn it into something outside of its original design. So when they decided to build the new City Hall, they converted the old City Hall into like, there's a restaurant, you can kind of see it over there. There's some office spaces, some tourist shops. I always say this is like the bathroom spot on the tour because it's the one bathroom in Boston that's open. And the restaurant, actually, they're like shtick. It's called Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And their like whole thing is they serve food on plates that are 500 degrees. I've never eaten there, but I think that's pretty cool. And one time I actually saw a bride getting married in this window right here while I was doing my tour. So I was like, hi, but she didn't see me. So spirits who were angered by the rampant commercialization of this once treasured landmark have been known to kind of terrorize tourists inside. So you definitely want to be careful if you go in, which I always warn people about if they're going to, do a bathroom break here. But since it's the only one in Boston, they're kind of out of luck. So the most prominent example comes from a woman named Marge Devers. Now, Marge was a secretary at one of the office spaces here many years ago. And Marge was a very fashion-forward woman. She really cared about her appearance. She always did like full hair, makeup, made sure her like clothes were good, ironed, fresh. And every morning on her way to the office, she'd walk past a mirror out in the hallway. And she'd stop and she'd check her appearance, make sure everything was, all good, like everything straightened. And she would always do that every day. You could set a watch by the habit. So one morning she happened to walk in, she noticed a smudge in her lipstick. So she reached into her bag to grab the tube of lipstick to reapply. And she looked up and her reflection was gone. So she was actually so startled, she dropped the tube of lipstick, picked it up, looked back up, but her reflection was back. So she thought, like, okay, it's early, I haven't had coffee yet, like I'm probably just seeing things. So the next morning, she walked past the mirror a little bit more hesitantly, and she peeked inside when something caught her out of the corner of her eye. She turned away for just a second, and when she looked back, blood was dripping down the tear ducts of her eyes onto her crisp white blouse. She looked down shocked. Then she looked back up, but there was no blood. So by now, Marge was really freaked out. So she decided to talk to her supervisor and see if they can get the mirror taken down. And at first, he kind of laughed her off, thinking she was joking. Then he realized Marge was really afraid to come to work. So he said he talked to the building manager because the mirror was out in the hallway, so like it didn't belong to the office space, and see what they could do. Well, a few days later, Marge came in, and a painting was hanging in the mirror's place. Marge was so relieved. It felt like a weight was off her shoulders. She was thrilled to see that mirror gone, and she could go about her day with ease. Well, that night, after packing up for the evening, she went to leave, and she noticed the mirror back in its original spot. And now Marge was angry. So she wanted to go confront the building manager in his office. She said to him, "Hey man, like what's going on? Thought we agreed to take down the mirror. What happened to the painting? It looked so good there." The building manager was confused. He said, "I personally took down that mirror this morning. I've actually got it right here if you want to see." And he turned before Marge could prepare herself, grabbed the mirror, and turned so a reflection side was facing her. Now, no one knows what Marge saw in the mirror that day, but she began viciously clawing and scratching at her face until her skin was peeling off and she was bleeding everywhere. And she quit and never came back. Now, the building manager, thoroughly freaked out by what he just witnessed, of course wanted to get rid of the mirror. But you can't destroy a mirror because of 7 years of bad luck. And who knows how many extra if it's a haunted mirror. Ooh, I wouldn't do that. So he had some of his employees just kind of wrap it up and stash it away somewhere. Now, it's been many years since that building manager has worked at the old city hall. So no one really knows where the mirror ended up. So if you do go inside, just watch your reflection. That's what I warn people when they're going to use the bathroom.